Wonderful.
He mentioned the VFC. That's my next mini panel. So if the speakers, Lee, Toby, and Alex, can join me on stage, and we will get started. Where are they? There they are. They might be feeling a bit shy. VFC was actually a massive topic last year. It was particularly spicy. So we're going to hold Toby's toes to the fire. Let's give them a massive round of applause. They come join me on stage. Oh, Lee, Tobes, and Alex.
No, see, I said I'd go at the end. I'm not going next to him. Come on, man.
Okay, Toby. So, VFC, right? It's big news globally. You know.
It's good to know. Good.
Yeah, no, it is. It's just like they're here. They're like Lebs. What's going on there? What are they doing? Why are they doing this? And I go like, I don't know. So the first question is, what are you doing? What are you trying to solve? Why is it a thing?
Yeah, and thanks for the chance to go through that. When we founded the VFC about 16, 18 months ago, we started with spending a lot of time in market asking clients and customers that very question. And the feedback was very consistent. There was an acknowledgement that as consumers, they were heading that way and watching more video. But they simply didn't know what to do with respect to how much money to move, what's best practice. You know, chatting to someone like Pat from CBA in the room, you know, his feedback was from a CFO perspective, he wasn't getting asked, what did that rate? He was being asked, what did that move or what did that sell? So from our perspective, we've pushed a lot on closing the gap in and around what is best practice, what are the best ways to invest behind video, and even what Shah mentioned earlier today, things like training, things like language and consistency on what is premium, what is SVOD, trying to make sense of all of that, because ultimately that problem that the marketers were feeding back, that's not their problem, it's our problem, because they can just move on and spend it elsewhere and spend time on other marketing problems. So what we're trying to solve is making sense of that, and that's got to be anchored in proof and evidence to justify, not just by turning up only, but justify via proof that there's an opportunity to invest more across video.
And how's that all going? Like, have you had any negative side effects? Now you were a year in or a year plus in, leaving OzTam and then forming this group. Has there been any negative feedback for you to do what you're doing?
I think I'll catch you on the word negative in a sense that has it been hard? Absolutely. So there's two parts to that question, right? There's a Foxtel media question on us leaving OzTam and Think TV. Has that been hard? I can tell you, knowing that there's quite a lot of Foxtel media salespeople in the room, it's been bloody hard. But what we've achieved in the last 12 months, we'll talk to later, but in a sense of what we've achieved and then how hard agencies and clients have worked at the same time is also what we recognise. But the benefit in doing that and the effort in able to provide agencies better understanding of audiences, better accuracy, that's been worth it. So no negativity in a sense of putting it in that context, but more broadly, you know, the Think TV element in particular, and what we moved away from, and it was sort of the sentiment that Willie just shared a moment ago. We wanted to be with like-minded partners that were focusing on the growth via video, and that was right for us 18 months ago, 2 years ago. So where we are right now is there is momentum behind that. Yes, it's been successful, and the theme of more work to do and more partnering to do holds very true. But 12 months for a VFC that's in many respects an informal side hustle, not about outcome.
Do you think, because it probably wouldn't have been formed had the conversations with OzTam gone differently, but do you think OzTam made a fundamental mistake not signing up the streamers as part of their organisation, which is what actually has been happening in other JICs around the world, and it's just odd in Australia. We got you guys, and then OzTam didn't do that. Do you think that was a fundamental mistake?
Go on, get stuck in.
You're asking Alex?
I'm going to get in trouble for that question later. Probably. Yeah.
I'll get in trouble for the answer. But the
mistake or not? Yes or no?
The mistake is orientating the conversation around a ratings conversation broadly on the VFC, right? And I'm dodging the question, but I'm answering in a sense that we're not just talking about ratings, we're talking about measurement, definitions, training, and more things than that. And that's why a key takeout to share today is, yes, we need to be a part of the conversation around ratings. What happened 12 months ago, mistake, but I think there's a collective accountability there. But let's focus the conversation on the breadth of what we're talking about, not one part of it, and that's the mistake.
Okay. Lee, why did you join?
For SBS, it was more about having a seat at the table. Very large, very rectangle, very solid wood tables. But
Sorry, which table's this? You're losing me on the analogy.
both of them.
You won't be allowed to the table, that's why you've never seen it.
I'm not, that's why, yeah.
So
I'm definitely not allowed at the table, yeah.
SBS is really a proud member of the VFC. We're also a very proud member of OzTam. And we've supported OzTam with the production of their currency. And I've been...
So you're playing both?
Yeah.
You're on both camps?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that?
It's really to have a voice in both seats. We can see that OzTam as a currency has been the right move for this industry. The VFC, from what we can see, is really something different, actually. It's around using trusted third-party measurement tools in order to measure the value of what clients are buying.
Yeah.
The one thing that we get asked constantly is around measurement, is around proving the value of where the dollars are going. The VFC aims to do that, and Toby's done a great job of wrangling that story and supporting that message.
Okay, yeah, we're going to come on to that, to the actual metrics that clients are after. And Alex, it's an easy question to you. Like, do you like what you're seeing in the market? Would you have liked to have seen it a little bit more together, or has actually this sort of fragmentation led to quite the innovation in this space? Has it actually helped the market push it forward? What do you want to see from your perspective?
Well, I think it's important to say first, I'm here representing the quote buy side, but I don't buy things.
What do you do?
I'm looking straight at buying people and about to embarrass myself probably.
Yeah.
But my decisions aren't made in the same way as theirs would be. What I want is information. Right? I want information about the people viewing these platforms. Everything that Beverly McGarvey said earlier I can't have, that's what I want. And I want it in volume, and I don't want anyone else to have it. That's actually what I want.
Okay.
So anybody, the question was put, do you think VFC is just a disruptor? I'm happy with any kind of disruption that gives me the information that allows me to do best for the brands and the clients that represent those brands.
What information do you want, though, specifically?
I want broad and deep information on audiences. I want to understand how they move between platforms. I want to understand whether the patterns replicate what we see in linear TV, because often we still replicate linear TV approaches to campaign laydown in streaming. I don't know if that's right or wrong.
Yeah.
We don't have enough information on that. Does loyalty exist to streaming platforms, or is it purely financially based? I need to know all that.
Don't need much, do you?
No.
Shouldn't you, aren't you guys like the sort of the engine brains anyway? Should you, if you look at, KK is completely thrown you under the bus here, by the way. I don't know, everyone's probably seen Christian Kroon's piece, which was absolutely refreshing to read, but his headline was that agencies are failing to serve brands and blaming TV networks for it. Previous iterations of this event, we talked a lot about collaboration. You've got to work together, you've got to figure this stuff out. Actually, KK was one of the ones who led that conversation. So he's just come out and said, no, it's our fault, we've got to figure this shit out.
Thanks.
Do you agree with what he said? He might be your boss, but can you sue him a little bit?
When you say he might be, do you mean he might not be tomorrow?
Yeah. I don't know where he's gone, he's disappeared.
Yeah, or I might not be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good of him to write that and then go on holiday. That was perfect for me. Look, I think...
Do you think we've been blaming TV networks? Do you think the agencies have been blaming them too much, whereas it should be stuff that you guys can figure out, you should be able to figure out?
Well, I think in terms of figure out, back to my earlier point, we can figure it out given all the information, but we can't always get our hands on all the information. What I would say, and this is not a polished answer because you just gave me the question, but I think, to me, at the centre of what he's saying is, there comes a point at which you can't rely on commercially competitive entities to tell you where your money should go, right? So the VFC is a good example of frenemies, let's be honest, coming together for the greater good. As soon as one of them becomes much stronger than the others, then it will test that relationship. We can get recommendations on the best way to go. Super bronzed Rod Prosser up here earlier talking about that kind of stuff. He looked incredible, by the way.
What name did you give him?
Super bronzed Rod.
I know, he's ridiculously handsome.
I'm a big fan. Yeah, he is. Makes me sick.
No. I'm not sure he works. I think he just tans. Yeah.
Allegedly, you can do
still
both.
here.
I've not seen his office.
At the tanning studio now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so look, I think, being serious for a moment, I think what he is trying to say is we are the agents on behalf of our clients, and at some point we have to take the responsibility of where the best place to put the money is for the brands we represent, not the commercial entities who want that money.
Well, one thing that Lee said, and Tobes and Willie as well, is about transparency. I've always got the same comeback to it. Does transparency actually pay? One of the biggest issues, again, we take this event around the world, we get to talk to so many different markets. New money is going into non-transparent environments. It's going into digital platform environments that are not third-party verified. So we spend a lot of time and money and effort measuring independently media, but is it worth it? Because when you look at the flow of money, it's going in the opposite direction. So is it worth it? Is it worth paying for it? Is it worth having this conversation? Should we talk about something else?
Yeah, you're upsetting me quite a lot, if I'm honest.
Yeah. But does
transparency
transparency pay? Yes or no?
Yes, over time, transparency most certainly pays. It has done for our business, without a shadow of a doubt.
Okay. So I guess let's look at what next for the VSC, right? You've got, even the linear environments will be turning to IP in some ways or another. You guys have built, obviously, a streaming infrastructure for the streamers and digital guys. I guess you could look at it that in the future, you guys could have this wholly come by our moment and come back together. You know, Oztam measuring the linear stuff they do with their digital meter and then adding on the outcomes. Is that like the future? Maybe you guys coming back together next year, you'll be on stage here with Kaz announcing it.
I think next 12 months, it'll be really interesting to see how the acceleration of, I'll just pick Paramount and Nine as two examples, like Nine the last few weeks with Max. They'll have Stan sort of kick in as an ad tier with rugby soon. Paramount, both I think Bev and Rod mentioned their trajectory and what they look like. So they will look even more different than they are right now. And you know, the interesting thing, we've gone out with some research and we talk about the benefits of streaming. They benefit from that, and that's cool, right? Because it's ultimately promoting and educating the market on what the role that streaming can be. So in that respect of who benefits from that conversation, they can certainly fall into that crowd. And it was mentioned, I think, Rod, and I'll back that up too, the conversations that we're having with all the networks is live. The great thing about the VFC is I get to listen to Willie once a month talk about where he's taking the market, and I'll as happily do that with Nikki from Nine in terms of where she and her business is going in that same direction. So the short answer is there's an opportunity for that, but the principles that we will continue to focus on is how do we move fast so we're not slowing down?
Yeah.
How do we make sure that it's what the customer wants? So what do they want us to focus on next? We'll absolutely gear what we do and who we do it with. And yeah, in 12 months' time, that'll be a conversation that's incremental to today and will play out in the right fashion.
So you're making eyes at the free-to-airs to come and join you guys?
I don't know if I'm going to call them free-to-airs in 12 months' time.
Okay.
Like that's sort of that.
What will they be called?
Well, they'll be streamers in terms of what they're doing, right? You look at the tipping point of where you see viewing at the moment with Samsung, it's swung towards streaming video over linear. So I think you recognise where the critical mass of where viewing is.
Yeah.
Does that shape where the conversation starts? Yeah. Maybe. But around language and definition of what that stands for, that's what we are trying to solve right now. Mm-hmm. And I think that will then help us all understand what we focus on, but customer first.
Okay. Lee, what's the success look like for you for VSC, being part of it?
For me, I think the streaming market has changed. I think measurement is changing as a result of viewership changing for the streaming market. I think the success for SBS is around supporting our clients with what they really need in terms of measurement, and whether that comes in many forms or in one form, I don't really know if we have a position on that right now. Mm-hmm. I think this industry has dealt with complexity a lot over the last kind of 10 years, and I think they can also deal with the complexity around measurement as well.
Yeah. Could you see, both of you, Toby might have to answer this one, but like, could you see like the unifying metrics where, so use a UK, I hate using all these UK examples, but they've got like C-Flight, which you've probably heard of, where they give you the duplicated reach for VOD, and Alex mentioned it's something that he would love, VOD and linear. Is that something that's achievable within this? Are you able to share data amongst yourselves in order to produce that?
Yeah, just very briefly, we're working with Kantar on a proof of concept to look at that.
You are?
And it's a really good point, right? Because ultimately, they're live in 15 countries. We're the 16th that's sort of taking on that particular platform. So how do we benefit from that? A lot of the VFC are involved in that in other markets. But we're also chatting to Roy Morgan or Peter Hammer, who's here today as well. There are many ways that you could look at if you're trying to go to that point of incrementality or exclusive reach, Big Grid and others. So, for us, what we want to do is understand what else, how else could you understand that, and test behind that, work with an agency who defines the problem statement or the objective, and we'll get behind that and we'll do more of it.
Yeah, and then Alex, if that data is unified, would that be a nice point to be able to, like we talked about it this morning, about taking money off social, where social is over-indexing at the moment in spend, according to the research. Stuff like this help be able to you to justify taking money from that pool and putting it towards telly, helping growing the pie?
Possibly, yes.
Not the answer we're looking for.
Okay.
Yeah, it's yes.
Sorry, it's almost certainly yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, look, I think, to answer the question a different way, I guess, there's a lot of chat happening right now about a new currency, a different currency.
Do you want another currency, or does it not matter?
How do we feel about swearing at this conference?
Australians
Fuck
are
no.
famous for it, so go for it.
I don't want another currency, personally.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
No, I think we talk a lot about fragmentation of audience. We don't talk enough about fragmentation of measurement. I think there's a plethora of different ways to measure, and even the most basic in terms of reach or ROI or brand measures are perfectly usable and really impactful. We just aren't able to synthesize them across enough places. So I think we need to concentrate on, from a screen's perspective, being able to deliver a unified reach number or attentive reach, whatever we want our measure to be, before we start thinking about another measure, because you will burn a lot of time and energy trying to get that one off the ground when we're much better served, particularly when you say about taking money from, social as the example you gave. We're not going to do that if we have a new measure that social's not measured against. So we're much better off using our energy on what currently exists.
Okay, Lee, Toby, do you want to come back on any of that?
I feel like there's a difference between measurement and currency. I think currency, I agree with you, Alex. I think currency is important for having that one nomination or that one defining measurement. I think measurement more broadly can be a multitude of different factors, depending on what the outcome is and what the client is looking for in terms of outcomes for their brand.
Okay. Tobes, we talked about this morning, it's like meaningful, and I know you're working on this loads, all right? You're ex-client side yourself. What are the outcome stuff that you guys can work on today, and what in a year's time that you have available at the VFC that you guys can start taking to clients?
Yeah, so we've just completed a couple of waves with Group M, with Agile, looking at what's that tipping point of the optimal spend on video, and this is backed up with analytic partners, and it's certainly, we see it in other research that we've done, which is between sort of 30-40%. But when you get underneath the hood of that, and this is more media metrics, and I'll jump into marketing ones, some of those optimizations around delivering incremental reach of 20% or reducing frequency, or delivering outcomes where clients or customers off the back of that skew towards streaming are engaging more with brands by 15%. So whether that's search, whether that's purchase. So, for us, we are working with a number of brands, Kantar from a ROI perspective, with the IPG and with Hannah at the moment, to understand what does video contribute to immediate sales and long-term brand. So they're the conversations we're having. They're the problems that agencies are trying to solve. So we sort of take a step back and do that with them. But yeah, it's just what's that contribution of the next dollar invested in streaming? How does that deliver X or Y, whether that's sales or brand, depending on the category?
And having that data and those tools, when you go to clients direct and say, hey, what is it you're after? What are your KPIs? And then providing a data point. Does that help you get in the room with them directly? Yeah,
it builds credibility. I think it was at the breakfast this morning, there was an acknowledgement that TV hasn't done a good job of that, which hurt to hear. And that's the fact that we need to stare into. So that notion of a marketer's got 50 things to do in the day, one of them's media. right? So what we need to do get better at is how do you cut through with something compelling that will make them stop and think about that. It's got to be in their language, and it's got to be done at a high frequency and reach, right? Which is, funnily enough, marketing and media principles. I think we're pretty shit at doing that to customers.
Yeah, and the last thing, I get asked this a lot actually in other markets, is how are you applying, you're using attention data as well. And I might, Alex, I know you're part of that as well, and Lee, maybe you can answer on this. Why are you including attention data, and what actually is that providing for clients who invest within the inventory pools in the VFC? Yeah.
I mean, back to what I said before. If any marketer, well, excuse me, that would be rude. Every marketer is going to be interested in whether everyone actually saw their ad or not. Like that's a baseline.
Are they?
I feel like they are. I don't know. It's just a hunch I have.
Yeah.
And it is the only metric really that allows us to be broad enough across all media as that metric grows. So there may be things that augment that, but at the moment, when I'm looking to understand quality reach across every channel, then it's my go-to.
It's attention. And same with you, Lee?
For us, I think it's just around exploration, right? It's around looking at what metrics are on offer, what measurement is on offer, and then working out what's the best thing for the VFC as a coming together, sitting at the table and having a discussion about what's going to drive the ROI for the client.
Okay, well, it's going to be interesting to see how it develops over the next year. We'll see if we hit those goals. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in thanking my panelists who've been a fantastic sports. And I'll depart with you guys over this way. Yeah, let's go.